Welcome to the Strategic Veteran, where we chart the course from service to civilian triumph. I'm Adam Peters, a veteran, entrepreneur, and your fellow navigator in the quest for a life of impact and fulfillment. My mission is simple: to empower you with the tools and stories that turn challenge into opportunity. Having walked the path from active duty to where I stand now, I understand the search for purpose that comes with hanging up the uniform. It's a path I've walked, with its trials, its tribulations, and its victories, and it's a journey we're on together. This podcast is more than just conversation. It's a beacon for those seeking to redefine our missions through entrepreneurship. It's about igniting the entrepreneurial spirit that lives within us, the spirit that compels us to create, lead, and make our mark on the world. Here we connect with veterans who have built businesses, sparked change, and found their purpose in the marketplace of ideas. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. They've transformed their service into startups, their experiences into enterprises, and they're proof that you can too. So whether you're scribbling business plans on napkins or stepping into the arena of innovation, remember, you're not alone. You're in good company. So let's explore these stories of transformation and take the first steps together on our path to purpose. Let's begin. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today we have an inspiring guest who served our country with distinction for 23 years in the United States Army, retiring as a Master Sergeant. Joining us today is Laura Kandewin, a remarkable individual whose journey from the battlefield to the world of literature and entrepreneurship is nothing short of extraordinary. Laura's military career is highlighted by a pivotal deployment to Iraq in 2003, a time that deeply impacted her and shaped her future endeavors. During her service, she found solace and purpose in writing, leading to the publication of her first book, A Soldier's Heart. The National Library of Poetry recognized her literary talents with the Editor's Choice Award for Poetry in both 2003 and 2004. Transitioning from military to civilian life posed significant challenges, particularly the mental shift required. However, Laura's resilience and determination led her to explore various paths, ultimately finding fulfillment in running her own magazine. Her core values of trust and integrity guide her in all her endeavors, whether it's writing, entrepreneurship, or inspiring others through her story. Laura has achieved much in her post-military career, including earning a master's degree, authoring several books, and starting a successful magazine. Her future aspirations include elevating her magazine, possibly starting a podcast, she should, and continuing to write more books. Today, Laura will share her journey, her challenges, and how she overcame them, providing invaluable insights for veterans transitioning to civilian life. So let's dive in. Warmly welcome Laura, a true strategic veteran dedicated to leading and inspiring others. Laura, thank you so much for being here on this wonderful Monday afternoon. Really excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for that great introduction.
Yeah, we got to give credit where credit is due. Let the people know who you are, right?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Let's just jump right in. Let's talk about, where did you grow up? What inspired you to join the Army? And how did you make it to 23 years?
Wow. So I grew up in Kingston, Jamaica, many years ago. Migrated to America, I want to say 1988, May. Continued my schooling in Philadelphia once I migrated and got settled with my family. So as high school came to an end, I knew that mentally I wasn't ready to go to college, and financially there was nothing set aside. So I knew that I needed something different, and I wanted to just take a risk. The possibility of joining the army and traveling and the unknown kind of excited me, as well as scared me. So I just went for it.
Hell yeah.
And
So
20, yeah.
you joined to travel. I also joined to travel. Unfortunately, I got stuck at 2 posts in 13 years. So
Really?
did not do much. Well, I went a lot overseas, but that doesn't really count because, we all went to the same place over there. So did you get to travel like you thought you were going to?
I did. I want to say I've been to Iraq, been to Korea, several, states, East Coast. Haven't been out to the West. Been to the Midwest, been out to Missouri and some different places. So I want to say, yeah, I did actually. I felt that okay, I have traveled, whether it's throughout the continental United States and overseas. So I want to say I feel like I fulfilled that.
Nice.
Definitely more to see, but yeah.
Yeah, of course. There's always more to see. I don't think we could all see it all in our lifetime, but we could try. What did you end up? So why the army? First of all, was there ever any thought of joining any other branch?
You know what? It never really occurred to me to really dive into the other branches. The army just at the time just seemed like that was the dominant, force, and the others just being like side competitors.
Still
That's how
that
I
way. It's
saw
still
it.
that way. It's still that way. We're the best. We know it.
Right. They were just kind of floating around on the outskirts. So it was always the army for me. And maybe the recruiters sold it more. I didn't feel the need to go and look around.
For sure. What ended up being your job while you were in?
Well, my job has been personnel, so
Okay.
human resource.
So
Um,
S1.
yes,
Ah, man, you're the first Army S1 I've had. I've had a Navy S1 on here, so that's cool. And you guys are the ones to blame when all our pay is fucked up, huh?
that's what I hear. But everyone always seemed that they were good on my end, so I never had that issue.
For sure. And just to let everybody know, personnel is so much more than that. It's
Yes,
awards,
it's
it's NCOERs, it's a myriad of things. You guys, I don't know how you guys do it because I oftentimes think you guys are understaffed.
we are oftentimes understaffed, so we do the best we can with what we have. Sometimes it's enough, sometimes it's not enough, but then we just pivot and just continue the next day.
Oh,
That's literally
a little something like being a business owner, huh?
right. That's what I just described, right?
Yeah.
Entrepreneur. We're
Yeah, yeah.
entrepreneurs as S1s.
Of course. So where was your first duty station and what year did you come in?
I joined, I want to say 96 was when I left for my first duty station, and that was Fort Stewart, Georgia. So Rock of the Marne.
Do you still remember the
Was
song?
I wouldn't give a bean to be
To be a
fancy.
fancy pants Marine. I'd rather be a dog faced soldier like I am. Yeah. That was my first duty station also. What brigade
Really?
did you go to? Yeah. Yeah,
I
first
went.
brigade, 2-7. I was in
Oh
2-7 infantry.
wow! I was in 24 PSB, and I also worked at the Mope Center at
Yeah.
one
Yeah, yeah.
point, and
Yeah,
then
because
over.
you would have
Hmm.
been there. You remember Divardi and Discom when that was still a thing, all the way
Yeah.
down by the back gate. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Small world.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It has, and it still pretty much looks the same. I was there a few years ago.
I haven't been since I left in 2011, so I'm sure it looks pretty different to me because when I was leaving out on what is it 144, the road that runs the ranges and all of that, the
I
training
think
area,
so.
they were
I think
building a whole
so.
fourth brigade out there when I was leaving.
I think I want to say yeah, it's definitely there now. Um, but I think when I went back, I went to see the barracks where I stayed, and of course they've upgraded, and it was just driving by the barracks. The memories of us just hanging outside, and
Yeah, I imagine, going on that post, I would remember probably all the division runs since we covered pretty much all that post on a division run, which was a nightmare. God, nobody likes division runs. Stop doing them. Um, so so we figured out why you were inspired to join, basically because you knew there was more world out there and you had to take a chance and you wanted to see it. So can you talk about that pivotal moment in Iraq in 2003 that inspired you to write your first book of poetry? And what was that deployment like for you? Because 2003, that's really early. That's the invasion, if I'm not mistaken, right? So yeah.
yeah, it was interesting. I've always been someone that wrote like maybe short stories or drew characters and wrote about them. So I always had that writing spirit. But I think when I went to Iraq, it was more like, okay, I'm with a lot of people, but I'm still alone, right? Because everyone's fighting their own internal battle of being away from family and being in the unknown. So I just felt like I had to channel that, and the best way I knew how was just to write, because that was like a mental escape for me during that time. So I would just, I had my little book in my cargo pockets. Every chance I got, I would just write and just build on the stories I had. And then I was like, hey, I'm going to publish it. So I would walk from tent to tent, beg paper, hey, can I use your printer? Hey, can I do this? Like, it was like a scavenger hunt mission. Um, Long story short, I did everything, drew the cover design with a couple of my battle buddies. And when I came back from deployment, it was shipped to my house. Like I had a book waiting on me that I kind of put together in the desert. So that felt accomplished. Like I said, we were there when it first started. So we were just part of like mainly setting up and getting things going. So it was very isolated,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm curious. I want to talk about your deployment a little bit, particularly because, and this is no offense intended or anything like that. I was an infantry guy, so it's pretty clear what we're doing when we go on deployment. But as an S1, particularly during the invasion, what was that deployment like? Because we hadn't established cops yet. We didn't have
Right.
forward operating bases and all that. So would you speak to what that deployment was like and what you were doing for a little bit?
Yes. So I deployed with 233rd Quartermaster Company. So the majority of the unit were fuelers, so they were fueling the vehicles and working alongside doing that. Myself and a couple other the other admin personnel, we were pretty much setting up, getting back on evaluations, processing awards, going on mail runs, driving to the post office, separating the mail, bringing it back. So we were just doing the admin portion and then whatever else needed to be done that fell under that umbrella. So that was pretty much what I was doing, whether I was on the night shift working on eval or during the day driving to the post office where they had the incoming mail sorting, driving back, and putting it out and things like that. Those are some of the highlights.
And I assume you guys were doing this with bare bones stuff because, again, it's the invasion. We haven't set up any kind of infrastructure yet. So I can imagine you walking
Right.
back and forth like printers in the back of Humvees and like I mean,
Right.
even the post office thing. Like, where was the post office? Because I got to Fort Stewart in October of 2003, so right after you guys came home. And life
Oh
for me
wow.
was awful as an infantry private because those guys were relentless. But, it was several months before they were even getting mail. And then mail was always, of course, delayed because the infrastructure wasn't there yet and all of that. So where did you start down in Kuwait and drive up with all of them? Or did you end up, in Baghdad when they finally made it to the airport? What did that look like? I know
I
it's been
think
20
we
years
I
ago.
want to
So
say we were on. Yeah, if I can remember correctly, I think we were on Club Truckville. Was it Club Truckville or the Post? But I think we were driving to Kuwait because they had the mail. Of course, it was a post office as opposed. It wasn't like a real post office, of course.
right,
It was
right,
just
right.
like a one of the buildings they were using, in the South that all everybody would go and collect for their unit and drive it back up. So it was really, we had a driver. It was a few was in the back of the truck, and we would drive through the rugged roads and
Yeah, all the
get
way from
there and
yeah, yeah,
usually a day mission and come back and then go through distributing.
for sure. So you joined in '96. So you're about 7 years in when you go on your first deployment, and I'm incredibly impressed that over 23 years, did you only have the one deployment?
I've only had the one,
How did you pull
and
that
then
off?
other.
Because I'm jealous. Like I did four in 13 years.
Wow.
So yeah,
You know
and
what?
good old Rock of the Marne bent me over real hard after the second one, and they wouldn't let me leave. I had orders to go to Alaska, and they stopped moved me to send me on the third one, and I was like,
I mean,
What are we
you were
doing?
just that good. You were
Yeah,
just that
no,
good.
no, no, no. I was
Your
not that
skills,
good.
your
I was a
skills were
body.
you
But
were in demand.
yeah,
But
for sure.
6 of those years, 3 were spent. I was on recruiting duty, and then 3, I was also an instructor. So I
Okay.
would I would have to take 6 out of that equation because I was on detailed assignment. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. It just kind of worked out that way.
It's because you got the N with branch, and you're like, oh no, don't send me over there again.
Right. That's
So,
it.
So let's talk about it's time to get out. It's time to retire for you. 23 years is enough. What did that, what are you feeling when that's coming up? Like, I know for even for me at 13 years, I was excited. I was like, I can't wait to get the DD 214. And then about 3 weeks afterwards, you're like, well, this was a mistake. This really sucks. And I hate my life. So, you made the decision to retire. What did the Army do to prepare you to transition?
Well, the Army, I think at that time they had where you can start going through, they call ACAP right then. I know the acronym has probably changed, where you can start actually 2 years out by going to the different classes. So I wanted to be ready. So I started 2 years out. I would, dibble and dabble into different ACAP classes when I would, when my leadership wouldn't, have a problem with it. I would start going to those classes. But I want to say the day I got my 214, I felt similar to how you felt. It was like a weird feeling of accomplishment, confusion, not confusion, but now what? I think it was more of now what? Because I've been so tied to this world of camaraderie and comfortability and convenience as far as, my pay was guaranteed whether I showed up or not, if I was sick or at home, right? So then it's like, now I'm retired. It feels good, right? I'm just in the house watching TV all night, my schedule. I'm just like, I'm free. And then it's like, what are you actually free from? Because after a while, you're like, you don't feel connected to the civilian world. So now you're kind of stuck in the middle of this bubble. So I was in that bubble for a while.
Yeah, you're the
So I,
first one I've talked to that actually took advantage of the entire 2 years and started, the ACAP process back then. I think now it's called SFL TAP. And I'm sure back then it was just as bad as when I got out in 2015. It was pretty much, at least from my perspective, because the infantry really likes to hold on to you till the very last minute. They don't give you time to do what you need to do. Not that I would have capitalized on any of those classes anyway, because that wasn't my mentality back then. But
right.
but you're the first person I've talked about that really did start 2 years out. And so did you find some of those classes beneficial? Or what I've heard from other people is it's awesome that they do have something, but they just give you so many resources and they don't really explain to you how to use these resources or give you time to digest these resources, and they just keep stacking them on top of each other. So it's really easy to get lost in the sauce. Is that true?
I would have to agree. I did feel like, they're doing something right to help us transition. But I felt like, and first of all, I started 2 years prior because I had a mentor that told me and encouraged me. So I think that's a key to having someone that's gone through it, that's going to take the time to say, hey, you might want to start doing A, B, C, D to help you set up for the future. So that helped out a lot. But I did find that a lot of the classes were redundant. I did go back to a few of them multiple times, but I felt like the disconnect was the lack of mental preparation. It was all focused on physical, when the mental shift, I think it's greater than the physical shift. So I didn't find a lot of them. I mean, some of the resume classes were okay. Did I really benefit from it in the long run? No. I mean, I met some great people in the
Right.
classes.
Yeah.
Um,
I felt very much the same way. I had a super condensed version. It was check the block on everything. The only thing I showed up for in person was the resume writing class. And at the end of it, it was not the greatest resume. And they weren't very good at helping me translate infantry skills into a resume,
right,
first of all, right? Whereas I can imagine, for someone from personnel or whatever, it's a little bit
right.
easier to translate
Yeah.
that into, I kicked doors down and shot people. Like, that doesn't, right, translate well, and they're lost in how
Very
to help
hands
us.
on.
Yeah, for sure. Right. And it very much felt like, to me, it was, it was like, okay, you have a resume now. Now use your GI Bill, get a degree, and good luck. And I was like, this sucks. Like no resources for even how to apply to colleges. I had to figure that out on my own by looking like a weirdo going into the admissions office and like, hey, I'm getting out of the army. I'm an adult, but I don't know how to adult. Like it's kind of embarrassing. And then you're right, that mental shift, right? And you did mention, that was one of the things that you said was, kind of lacking was them preparing for the mental shift. Like, I think you said there wasn't even any attention called to what that looks like. And I don't think that was ever the case for me either. Nobody tells you that your identity, your sense of purpose, you're basically everything that you've known for the last, in your case, 23 years is about to change, and they do nothing to prepare you for that. Is that what you found?
Absolutely. Like I felt like I went from being of value to being ordinary. Like now I'm in this world, right? Now I'm part of the ordinary population. Not to say ordinary isn't okay, but coming from what we've come from and having that value and your purpose and your mission to now having to assimilate with ordinary people. I think that was definitely an adjustment. I think I've gotten better at it, but even like 7, 8 years later, it's still like, um, yeah, what is this?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. It's a large reason. Just talking to transitioning veterans and putting the strategic veteran together. It's like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I had no purpose anymore. I had no camaraderie because you're right. Trying to fit in with quote unquote ordinary people, and that's not. I get what you're saying.
Right.
We are part of 1% of the entire United States population who stepped outside of ourselves to serve something bigger than ourselves. So
Yeah,
you are extraordinary when you do that, because
that's
only
right.
1%, only 1%. That's not, that's a small number,
That is
so it's not derogatory calling them ordinary folks, but like learning how to be ordinary and function when you come from a place that is extraordinary is a very difficult thing to do, because I think you'll agree to this. Like, even within the Army, different branches within the Army operate differently, right? Like the
right.
infantry units are much different than the personnel units. But outside of that, the Army is different from the Marine Corps. And then we're all different from the way the civilian world operates. And
Right.
I spent from 17 years old to 30 years old. So all of my critical formative years are being shaped by the military and that mindset and all of that. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of us, and why we struggle so much when we get out. Is that something you agree with?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's why the veteran suicide rate is still high as it is, because no one has helped them transition mentally to, like you said, how to coexist with others, so to speak. So now they're kind of left to try to figure it out, and they feel alone. They don't know what resources to tap into for that specific, issue. And then I think that's what creates that additional stress.
For sure, without question. I think too, you'll probably relate to this, right? Like when I got out, the first thing that went away was PT. I stopped doing PT every day. Like hindsight's 2020. Like that would have been the one thing that I should have kept doing, because it would have helped me
Yeah,
overcome those mental health hurdles and not gain weight and not
I
feel miserable. But that was one of the first things that went away, because I didn't understand from a self-awareness standpoint how
right.
important physical fitness is to your overall mental health, right? So did you
Yes.
experience that also?
I did. I didn't grasp that maintaining a routine, even though I'm retired and I can create my own schedule. I mean, my routine went out the window. Like when my family went to bed, I'll be up to 2, 3, 4 in the morning just watching TV. I get up to function, get the kids off, husband go off to work, and I have a whole day to just do nothing productive other than stuff around the house. So that feeling of being in charge of my own schedule, I ran with that, and to the point like, okay, I need schedule. I need balance. you
Yeah,
know.
for sure. I remember that too. It was several months. It was like, yeah, and it's even I think it's even worse too because if you are capable, I don't know, I've always been capable of making friends wherever I go. And when I got out and medically retired in Fort Lewis, my friend group was primarily all civilians, but therein it lies another problem. You're excited to get out because you're going to go hang out with these, these this new friend group all day every day. Well, that's not real because I'm 30 years old and they have
Yes.
full-time jobs because they have to feed their family. So it's like, what do I do from the hours of, I don't know, whenever I wake up until my friends are off work?
That's the key whenever you wake up, right? I think that's it. And I underestimated the importance of still having that veteran community friend group because they get it. It's like an unspoken connection that you don't have to elaborate on because they've lived that life. Even though I have like friends that might have the time, sometimes it's just like maybe the conversations is like it's not relatable because it's like it's just a different experience. So now you have to not only learn how to, get back into society, but then you have to also learn how to see the world for what it is while you are in the bubble. So it's all kind of different shifts going on simultaneously.
It's
For the
insane.
different.
It's a whirlwind, right? Because learning how to talk to people in the civilian world because they don't have the same sense of humor, potty mouth that we do in the military, and then moving past that, like the loss of, you always knew, no matter what, I don't care, from the time you were a private to the time you were a master sergeant, you always had orders coming down the pipe. So you always
Right.
had a purpose, direction, motivation, right? That's the three key things of leadership in the Army. So to provide purpose, direction, and motivation, and that was being provided for you, and you get out, and guess what, now you have to provide that for yourself. And that is not something I think that comes naturally to any of us, no matter how much time you did in the military, because you get so used to someone somewhere always has a boss.
Yes.
And
And now
now
you're your own boss.
now you're the boss. So for you, did you struggle with falling into the transition hole, as I like to call it? Any kind of substance abuse problems, any big issues like that, thinking you wanted to end your own life, not wanting to be here anymore?
No, I never. It was never that extreme for me because I know I still had my three daughters, my husband, so I still had a purpose. Getting up, getting them ready for school, which I enjoyed. But I think for me, it kind of came in the area of lack of true direction. Like most veterans, I started a T-shirt line, and I didn't think that was going. Then I was selling, I created notebooks, and then I was like, okay, well, let me try this. So it was just being a serial entrepreneur and just really trying to get my hands, my heart, and my mind on something that's going to just work consistently. So I think for me, it was just becoming a serial entrepreneur of trying a little bit of everything and trying to just laser focus on one thing or
Right.
just,
Yeah.
you know.
I relate to that a lot because I, like you and so many others, tried all of that stuff too. I tried selling digital products. I thought at one point I was going to be the next Zenny Optical because I wear glasses and I thought that was cool. Well, I learned a whole lot about trying to do that. I faceless YouTube and TikTok. And I never stuck with
Yes.
any of those things with I guess the consistency that's required to see the actual results from those things.
Yes.
I didn't understand that at the time. And so I also think though, and maybe you'll agree to this as we start moving into, entrepreneurship for you and all of that. Do you think that by starting to try all of those things, it really started to help you heal and move past the transition and get better?
I think so because I've always been a creative person. Like when I was working on the t-shirts, I was excited and like when I would set up like vendor tables and people would, purchase some of them and then be like, wow, like my art is in that bag. Like I saw that through. or when I was working on my notebooks, or when I was trying, different things. And in that moment when I'm doing it, I'm excited because something is being built and come together from my mind.
Yeah.
But then as time will go on, like I said, the consistency and not following it through from A to Z, maybe from A to M, my excitement went and it's like, okay, I need to try something else. That's not working. I mean, and then maybe because in the military, we're always doing different missions, right? That's done.
Right.
Let's move on to something else. So I also, had those similar, outcomes.
Hell yeah. How did you come to choose entrepreneurship as your path after service? Like what, I talk to a lot of transitioning veterans, and the big barrier, particularly because you fit the exact mold of the people that I'm talking to, a husband, 3 kids, got to provide for them, right? Like entrepreneurship's a huge risk. So, how did you settle on becoming an entrepreneur, and what sparked all of that for you?
I think initially when I retired, 20 some years, I was just mentally exhausted from being told what to do. I mean, that's the honest answer. In that moment, I didn't see myself working for anyone else because it was just like, I've been told what to do for 23 years, right? So it's like, okay, I want to try and just be my own boss and be creative. And so for me, it was just out of just not mentally being in a place where I wanted to be restricted and be on someone else's clock. Um, which in hindsight, I'm open to that now, right? Because so many time has passed. And I think in a creative space, especially entrepreneurship, it's hard. It's hard to maintain a level of financial security like you did when you were on the clock, so to speak. Unless you're doing, really well, right? And then that will play into being consistent, which I'm always working on. So,
Well, and I think that's the trade-off, right? Like you are tired of being told what to do, so you're going to go and create your own thing where you're telling what to do, right? But the trade-off is the financial stability, because when you make that decision to step into entrepreneurship, and I tell anybody who wants to get mentorship or coaching from me, it's like we need to get your mindset right, and you need to be able to delay gratification for 2 to 5 years, meaning you need to work your ass off for the next 2 to 5 years, seeing sometimes zero results and $0 from that before you're really going to be at a point where you can, take this thing off and really start replacing that income or making that income or achieving that goal that you have set for yourself. Is that what you're finding as well?
right. And I wish someone had told me that when I started. Like, it's going to take this amount of time. So don't get frustrated. Don't stop prior to the finish line. I might have maybe went harder on some of the other avenues that I've taken. But yeah.
I think those are some of the lessons that we sometimes just have to learn the hard way on our own. Just like you just kind of have to learn it, by doing it and getting the experience. So, what are some achievements or projects since you've retired that you're particularly proud of? I know earning your master's degree and starting your magazine are two of them. So how did those two things come about? And oftentimes I think a lot of times soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, all that, they don't really give themselves enough academic credit and what they're capable of. Because a lot of us joined because we knew we didn't want to go to college, right? Like, that was my case. I
Or
was like,
didn't
school,
want to go right away. It's
right,
like you
right.
wanted to maybe.
So, what was it for you that compelled you to get a master's degree?
Well, I knew that I wanted to go further than a bachelor's. One, I did it because I wanted to show my kids, hey, mommy got her master's, so you got to outdo mommy, right?
Right.
So
You
they
have
can have a a starting point, to try to obtain, and then just knowing that I just wanted that self of accomplishment.
That's
Um,
awesome. I think that's
yeah, and I
the
thought,
best
yeah,
reason ever, is to prove to yourself that you could do it.
exactly, and it felt good because I was like, okay, if I'm going to eventually go back to work, maybe this will come in handy. So that was my thought process. And then for the magazine, being a writer, I remember when I got out, I was just always reaching out to different people. Hey, can I write an article for you? Or this, or well, you can do it, but we're not going to pay you because you don't have a name. So I was just always writing, and it was just like I just got tired of asking people, and I was like, I'll just create my own magazine where I can have my own articles in addition to other people, where I can see more of people that look like me in the articles. Like I just got tired of just asking. That's the best
Yeah.
answer. I
I,
wanted to create where I can decide and I can show more of what I want to read. So
control
that yes.
control what you're consuming. I love that. I think that's amazing. And I really am, this is the part that I have the most fun on because I'm super curious. First of all, a magazine in, when did you start the magazine? What year?
Well, I actually started last year on Veterans Day. I wanted to start, and just, hey, I'm a veteran. So that's the November 11th, I think last year. Yeah, is that the day? Yes. So I started on Veterans Day, found some amazing veterans that you typically don't read about. And that's the thing about Battlefield Lifestyle. It's just a diverse group of, I don't know if you had a chance to look at any of them. It's a diverse group of people that you typically won't see in a typical veteran business magazine, right? Because they're running a gun range, they're in a movie, they're starting their own coffee brand, they're just doing some amazing things that you typically don't see on a day to day basis.
That's awesome. And I love that. So in 2023, you decided to launch a magazine. And this is where generally I'm just curious. First of all, how did you overcome, we're in such a digital age, right? Magazines aren't a thing like our first deployments in '03, '04, '05,
Right.
right? Where I had a stack of magazines like this because they're still in print. It's the thing that you do. You get subscriptions to magazines and all of that. So how did you decide like, hey, I can do this? Like, where did you go to figure this stuff out and really wrestle, with kind of that market fit and all of that? Because I really am genuinely curious about this, and I want to hear about like, all the things that you're doing with the magazine and how you drive traffic to the magazine and how you get subscribers, because we live in a digital world where information is, if you wanted to know the answer to a question, I could probably Google it right now and not have to pay for anything. So I really am genuinely curious about how this whole business operates and how you arrived on it.
Oh, great question. I started with research, Google and YouTube University. There were so many other digital veteran magazines that were out. So I studied theirs. I saw what I felt like they were missing, and tried to say, okay, what niche, what can I bring to the table that's going to be unique? So I wrestled with how to do it. And by doing my research, using software like Canva and these different places you can, tie magazines together and work on the layout. I did it all, from start to finish, the design, the cover, the text. My very first one, I wrote majority of the articles because I couldn't find enough writers to submit articles. So I was like, okay, I'll write them. And, some of them I used a pen pal name so my name wouldn't seem redundant as the
Right.
author of almost all the articles. But I knew it was something I really wanted to do. And, I had a few people review it just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Um, but by doing research, by seeing what was already out there, going to Barnes and Noble, scanning different magazines to see how they laid theirs out, just for inspiration, and then working on it. I worked on it because I had the idea, years ago, but I would just kind of chip at it. And I said, you know what, this year it has to get done because I keep coming back to this vision and I'm not doing anything with it.
Right.
So I said, by any means necessary. Now, as far as right now, it is digital. I'm working on a website where it could be available, so it will be in search engine. Because
Okay.
right now it's just that the link that you would click and go to, but it's not necessarily searchable.
Right.
As far as ads and trying to promote, I'm still learning. I'm in that phase now. I've had one person place an ad, so it hasn't been profitable yet, other than emotionally profitable. So I'm in that phase right now where I'm trying to then transfer to, ads and getting it out there and possibly doing a subscription.
Hell yeah.
So that's what I'm working on now to make it more profitable as
When
well as meaningful.
I love that you say it's not profitable monetarily, but it's profitable emotionally. That's so, so, so important because to me, and honestly, I'm not profitable either in the monetary aspect of things. This podcast has made no money. The community launches
Oh, wow.
Thursday of this week. So, still no money there. Invested a ton into building that, and everything that I've
Yeah.
done. But for me, it's really the opportunity that I've gotten through networking with people, talking to guests on the show, becoming the board, being on a board of directors for a nonprofit in QRF Up, which I think is going to revolutionize mental health care for veterans and first
Yes.
responders. Right, like these are the things that are truly profitable. Being able to make
Yes.
a mark on the world and have some kind of hand in a community that means so much to me and doing work that needs to be done, that can only
Yes.
be done by people like us who have been there and done that and served.
Exactly.
That is so I'm so glad that you talk about emotional profitability because it's a real thing, and I'm willing to bet that it's made all of those transition woes kind of fall away and really giving you that purpose and that direction and that motivation now.
It has. I mean, it feels good when it comes together. You have the vision in the beginning, like for the August issue, which should be coming out shortly, is focused on goals, talents, and how, if just what propels you to keep going, the side hustle and the things that you just love to do, right? So when it all comes together, it's rewarding,
It's so rewarding.
emotionally, yeah, psychologically, even if it's not so much financially. Yes, at some point you want those two things to intersect, but it's not a deterrent, right? It's not a deterrent to not keep doing it because it satisfies another purpose.
And of course you want those two things to intersect, but the only way those two things intersect is by delaying your gratification,
Right.
understanding that this is the long play, if you
Long
will,
term.
right? 2 to 5 years. Like the gurus on YouTube, and I hate them. You probably hate them because I went to YouTube University as well, Google University. You find all these offers, people telling you, "Oh, you can be making $10,000 a month in 30 days," and
Right.
it's like, yeah, I'm sure people can do that. Those are outliers, and it's not long term. That's not something that they're going to sustain,
Exactly.
right? If you want to build something that does make that kind of money, or even more than you would believe, you have to delay that gratification. You
You
have
have
to
to.
put immeasurable sacrifices, right? There's so many sacrifices that have to be made, and you have to be comfortable with making those in your life to get
Yes.
to that point where the emotional profitability and the monetary profitability intersect.
Intersex. That's so true.
I think that's what a lot of business coaches or gurus don't tell anybody out there. They just sell you on the quick cash and you can do this. It's really easy. My favorite's the ones you can build a business for free. And I'm like, no, you can't, because a domain costs money. Like, if you want a website,
Right.
it costs money. And then, oh, by the way, you have to host that website because it's just a domain that doesn't work if you don't do that. And that costs more money. So there's no such thing as free.
Exactly.
There's no such thing as quick cash. Like, you just have to grind and continue to grind and
You
then
have to.
watch everything start happening for you.
That's so true. I did say if you love what you do, whatever opportunities will come, it will find you. If you just put in the work. So,
Absolutely.
that's what I'm doing. That's what you're doing. So it has
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah, 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 and I believe it's going to work. I know in my heart that if I keep doing what I'm doing and keep being a genuine, authentic human being that just cares
Yes,
about other humans, I will get to where I'm going and so much further. And that's
I
the
believe it.
exciting part. Your core Yeah, your core values are trust and integrity. I'm fairly certain I know where the integrity one comes from, but how did you arrive on these two core values to start building, your business on, and why those two? Why are those two the most important to you?
I think just staying true to yourself um, is trusting that you're enough. So it starts with just showing up in your authentic space. Who's going to be for you will be there. Who's not, then they won't be, right? I think in the beginning when I was trying to figure out this new life after the military, I was tend to go with, okay, well, that person's doing that. They seem like they're doing good. Let me try that, or and not knowing that if it's not authentic to me, if it's not genuine to me, then it's not going to work for me.
Right.
So I just had to go back to the core. It's like, hey, stick to what you know. You know writing. Just find a way to make it work for you. And I
I love
think with
that.
the integrity, yeah, with the integrities, I just know that at the end of the day, all I have is my word. No riches, all this stuff can fade, but I can still stand on my word and be homeless somewhere. I'll still have my word, right?
Yeah. Well, and I love that you're speaking to the trust aspect of it from a sense of trust in yourself, believe in yourself, because for so much of my life, I did not believe in myself. I didn't believe that I was capable of so much. And for you to take the chance on yourself and be like, okay, I know I'm a gifted writer. I know that I can make this work. So it's time to shit or get off the pot, right? I
That's
have to
it.
commit to this. And I trust myself and my vision for this, even though very often, and I think you'll agree to this, we haven't a fucking clue what we're doing. Like we don't really
Not
know.
a clue.
You know what I mean?
Not a
You
clue.
just you just start taking actions that align with your core values of trust and integrity, and things start to reveal themselves to you, right? Is that what you've experienced?
Yeah, it comes together. Like sometimes I'm like, what is the vision? And I'm like, okay, I have a table of contents. Okay, then I have my mission statement. And then, okay, I have all these articles put together. Okay, then I'm going to have a spotlight page. And it's just, if you just trust yourself and just keep going, it will come together. You might not see it in the beginning, but if you chip away at it, something will be in your hands and in the final product.
For sure. What has been one of the biggest challenges you've overcome, either in your military career or in business since you've been out, or just in general in life? And how did you overcome that challenge, and what kind of toll did it take on you?
I think the biggest challenge as far as getting out of the military and then being in this, ordinary world is just knowing that I'm enough, right? I think sometimes when we transition out and we're not getting the job offers, we're not getting those things that came natural in the military, we start to feel like I'm not enough. What am I lacking? So that was something that I had to just tell myself, hey, go back to the drawing board. Look at all these things you've accomplished. Like, you're the shit. Like, you're it. You're that girl,
Right.
And sometimes I think we get lost in that because this world is a different space. So having to just sit in that I am enough. I might not be enough or what they require, but I'm still enough.
I love that so much, so much, because you are enough. You individually, I individually am enough to do whatever we put our minds to. And I do think, had I not met certain people along the way, I would still be in that same mindset where I didn't believe I was capable of or enough to do, or whatever that looks like. So did you have anybody that was kind of guiding you along, mentoring you, and help prop you up and tell you that you were enough? Or did you just come to that level of self-awareness on your own?
I definitely didn't come to it on my own. I have had a mentor that I've known since I joined the army. I was when I joined the reserves first for 2 months. So he was the sergeant major at a unit in New Jersey. So he used to like give me rides back and forth from Philadelphia because I didn't have a car. I was like 17, and he just became like that role model figure in my life to this day. married, kids later. Like, he was definitely that sounding board. So I want to say having someone that sees you for who you are, knows that, you have it in you, is so beneficial as you make that transition. So you're not just out in the wolves as the only sheep, right?
Yeah,
Or vice versa.
for sure.
So I
It's so
definitely
important.
had, yeah, it's so important. I mean, that could be life or death for a lot of people.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. And it speaks to those people who are like, no, I can do this on my own. It's like, no, man, you can't do this on your own. I used to think the same way. I used to think I'm fine. I can do this by myself. I'll figure it out because I figure everything out. And that is the worst thing that you can do, I think, personally. Just having the experience. And I did have the substance abuse problems, and I did have the suicidal thoughts and ideations, and never actually had the balls to try. But I was in that place. I was as dark as it goes and ready to check out, thinking I can do this all by myself, and that's not the case. You just can't.
Right. I wish there was something like as we transition that we would just be linked up with like a veteran battle buddy, right? Someone that can check in, that's already gone through it, that can say, hey, veteran to veteran, how are you? Just like when you join the army, you get a battle buddy. I think it's, be a good idea to get a battle buddy as you leave the army, just to
So
help you with
I'm
that
so
shift.
glad that you think like that, because that's really what I'm trying to create with my community, the Stronghold. And my long term vision for the Strategic Veteran is to be a skill bridge program teaching these principles to transitioning soldiers. Like they have sales, Salesforce, UI, UX courses,
Yes.
tracks that you can take right now through Skillbridge. There's not an entrepreneurship or even an intrapreneurship to tell you how to be the best employee that you could possibly be. And
Right.
there's no like growth mindset stuff that comes out of any of the transition briefings that you go to. So that is my long-term vision for the Strategic Veteran. And the way you just put it is almost probably how I'll market it, is like, get your battle buddy for the transition, because that's so good, because everything we do in the Army is battle buddy related, always.
Yes, I'll make sure I send you my bill,
Yeah,
and you
for
can use
sure.
my bill.
Absolutely. I will 100% credit you with that all day long. But that's the beauty of doing these, right? Like, is
That is.
we get to have these conversations and inspire
Yes.
each other, and it informs. And that's what we've been talking about for almost an hour now, is the in we don't know what we're doing when we're trying to build something, but by having conversations and talking to people,
Yes.
getting
You
out of
get
our comfort zone,
inspiration.
the path forward reveals itself, and you learn new tips and tricks and tools that you put in your tool belt to use now or later or whatever that looks like. And we're a living example of that, and I think it's great.
Exactly. And that's why, like, the veteran population, like, that's my people. Like, that's who I want to work with, whether I'm an entrepreneur or back in the working world. That's who I get the most. That's who gets me. And it's just an easier transition. But yeah, I love these type of interaction, because a lot of times I'm like, okay, what I need to do next? Like, how can I grow this magazine? And trying to brainstorm and do everything on your own. Sometimes it's like you get to that block, and that's when you get into the lack of consistency, because you don't really have that sounding board or other creatives like, no, try this. Have you thought of this?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
I
love it. So
definitely
I'm
agree.
gonna pay it forward for you. I have some ideas on how you can help grow your magazine. You talked earlier about you need to get the website launched and all of that. SEO is going to be your best friend with that. And I'm sure you probably already know about SEO. And if you don't, I'd love to connect you with my wife, who is a professional SEO, who can help educate you on all of that stuff. But man, I think SEO is going to blow the doors wide open on your magazine, because basically you'll get organic Google traffic coming to your magazine articles, whatever ones you make public or whatever, organically through searched keywords. And I think that's going to be super powerful for growing your magazine.
Oh, nice. I would love to do that.
Yeah, for sure. See, I'll send you
Yeah.
the bill. you know,
Our
um,
bills will cancel each other's.
yeah, there we see. Yeah, right. Looking forward, what are some of your goals or aspirations you have?
Well, and looking forward, I definitely can see myself having a podcast. I mean, it's easy for me just to talk and interact with people. I'm thinking the people that I have in my magazine, I would then try to, have them um, spill over into the podcast to then do interviews on them, since I already have their stories. Um, Definitely want to write a few more books. I want to do like a yearly battlefield lifestyle veteran link up.
I think you
Entrepreneurs,
should do that for sure.
like-minded people. Just coming together. I've thought about this for a few years now, so I just have to put it together in my head, get the space, make it so it's going to be successful. Another thing we do is like we have the idea, but then we stop short of putting together, maybe out of fear of it not really coming together. But that's definitely something I have on my radar. And I would love to do like a documentary, like a G.I. Jane girl version updated. Like, like I
You should
haven't
do
really
that.
seen like a badass woman out there like they do with all these men shows. Like, yeah.
I hear that for sure. I think you should do all of those things. I would challenge you. Why don't you put on an event before the end of the year?
I'll do that just because you challenged me. I will do that.
I mean, someone challenged me to do it, and I'm trying to figure out between the nonprofit and running this company how I can get that done before the end of the year. And it's daunting, but I think it would be a blast. And I think we need more of that, right? Veteran link ups, just to be like you said, around like minded people. And just imagine all of the promotional content you can get out of that, all of the ideas from having the conversations and networking with other veterans that you can get to take your magazine to the next level. I think you should do it before the end of the year. Where are you at? I'll come.
Oh, well, I'm in Fayetteville. I'm in North Carolina, close to
Perfect.
Fort Bragg.
Yeah,
Well, Fort Liberty now. They call it Fort Liberty.
yeah. I'm in Florida, so it's not that far for me. I'll definitely, and I've got buddies in North Carolina. I'll drag them to your event too.
That would be awesome. And then we can exchange notes on our own event.
There you
See how
go.
things
Right.
went.
See, you see how all this works right now. I do. I think you should do it. I challenge you to put something together by the end of the year. I think you could do it, and
Challenge
I
accepted.
think it'll end up being the best thing that you ever did.
Oh, thank
Just
you.
just
I'm gonna
because
do it.
I think it'll inform so much, right? Like, because so much of building a business is just not knowing what the next step is. Well, if you've got all these great ideas, why not commit to executing on one of those ideas, so that now, like you said, I have this idea but I never take action on it. We'll just take action on it. What's the first thing you need to do to put an event together? You need a venue.
Right. And I
Ven-
think, yeah, I'm going to do it. And thank you for that encouragement. Because at the end of the day, even if you so called fail, which failure is not actually failure, you still completed the event, right? And
Yep.
I think a lot of
You
times,
learned
yeah,
how to
you
put on an
learn.
event. You get to evaluate that. What is the worst that's going to happen? You're going to put on this event, and I'm sure you'll get at minimum one person will show up, right?
Right.
So to me, like, right, like, just looking at this from just a realistic standpoint, that's a success to me. If I put on my first event and I get one person
One
to show up,
person. Yes, you're right. You're
and
right.
I think there's so much that goes into that too, right? So my first episode of this show, we did Rich Mulder, and he said that because we're veterans, we get this immediate base of power, and it's a tool not to be abused. But that really resonates with me because I've watched some of my peers, that are building their own things or doing nonprofit work, been putting on events, for the last several months, and it's really not that hard for us to secure venues. You just go ask the venue, like, hey, I'm a veteran. This is what I'm trying to do. And a lot of business owners out there that have the space for you to host something like this, they will donate their space to you. So you are in it no money.
Right. Especially when it's around, because my idea was to have it around Veterans Day to kind of no brainer, right? To kind of have the emphasis on veterans. Um, so yeah, I'm going to do it because I've been thinking about it. Just like with the magazine, I sit on it and then I pull the trigger. So I just need to pull the trigger.
Well, I'm glad I could peer pressure you into doing it, because I think it's going to be awesome. And you know, just having had this conversation with you, I can see how creative of a person you are, particularly in that you do something that I genuinely hate to do, and that's write. I That's why I podcast. I talk to people, and that's
Right.
what I'm good at.
You're
And
great at it.
well, I appreciate that. I'm trying to get better every day. You know what I mean? But
No, you're great at it. I love the questioning and how you set it up and the transitions. I mean, it's really good.
yeah, well, let's have another transition. Is there a
Okay.
particular message that you want to or a piece of advice you want to share with the audience, veterans in particular, or anybody who's going through a transition in their life? What advice would you really want them to have?
I would say first thing is try to maintain whatever habit that's going to keep your mind healthy. Don't just stop working out altogether. Don't sleep all day, and because that it's gratifying in the beginning, but it just throws off so much of your emotional balance
Hmm.
because you will start to feel like you don't belong anymore on top of no schedule, not eating healthy, staying up all night. It's just like it's a disaster waiting to happen. Um, with every transition, you're going to have highs and lows, ebbs and flows. Ooh, that rhymes. Pat myself on the back. You're going to have those highs and lows, ebbs and flows. So you just have to um, keep getting up, keep showing up, find a mentor, find another veteran that's already transitioned. Because one thing you'll know, veterans, they're going to be happy to talk to you, right? Especially if you're a veteran, and they're going to share their experience of as to what occurred, right, and their journey. So I would say just keep trying and know that you are so valued. Your input you gave to the military was such an asset, and now you don't really owe the world anything else. You've given of yourself. So choose how to continue to give and don't feel that you're a burden to society, because society owes you the 1%.
That's
So
it.
your value continues, even though it's not quantitative in a mission statement or a report that you have to turn in on a weekly basis. You still have value.
I love what you just said there, because you know, you don't owe society anything. You've already paid a debt. And to further that, what you're talking about is, I do think the path back to purpose and through healing is still serving something bigger than yourself. And it's been a really hard lesson for me to learn. I am no different than anybody else who's gotten out. I've had my trials and tribulations, and I've walked through that dark transition hole. And that's really the conclusion I keep coming back to is, we all say we join for a myriad of different reasons, but I keep coming back to why we really joined is because we were called to serve something bigger than ourselves. And I'm finding that now that I'm still serving something bigger than myself, because let's be honest, the veteran suicide epidemic is way bigger than one person can tackle alone. I'm so fulfilled, and my cup is so full because I get to do this kind of work, and I get to do it in my own way. Nobody's telling me how I have to solve this problem, right? Like, I just
Exactly.
identified a way that I could solve the problem, and I just take massive action to move me forward in solving that problem every day. And it's just so rewarding.
It is, and you're definitely making an impact. I know I am. I've had people that I've featured. I think there's one guy I featured, great guy. He started a t-shirt line. It's called Hey, Don't Give Up, right? So he started a movement to tackle mental health and suicide among men and women. So I bought the t-shirt. I did an article on him, and he was just so grateful for the article, and it's inspired him. He's coming out with his website. He's taking it to the next level because I think that was like his first feature. So I know I'm doing my part in small ways. So when I hear, the stories of how their excitement is so like, someone is taking the time to write about me, and it feels good. So I'm with you on that. It's like we can do our part, and it, even though it's small, it's going to add up. Like each percent, your percent, my percent, and everyone else that's doing something on their battlefield, their expertise, is going to add to the mission, right? It's going to add to the pot.
If there's one article from your magazine right now that is your favorite that you would want everybody listening to go read, what one would that be and why?
I would say the article I did on Remy Adeleke. I don't know if you know Remy. He was on Transformers. I think I don't remember the third one. He was on a couple reality TV show. He's a best-selling author. He's a Navy SEAL. I mean, he's a big deal. And I reached out to him on LinkedIn. And I was like, "Hi, I'm so and so. Do you mind if I do an article on you?" I'm like, "This guy's gonna say no. He don't even know me." And he said, "Sure. Here's my publicist," and made the connection. And I say that because I didn't expect a yes. I he's like the most, I guess, famous person I've featured on the magazine, and he said yes. So that's one of my favorite because I took a risk. I stepped out my comfort zone, and I actually got a yes. And it was a beautiful article. He's Nigerian born, and his story is so phenomenal of how his Navy SEAL experience, how that ended up and where he's today. So yeah, definitely look him up. I'll email you the magazine article I did on him. I think you would enjoy it. Remy Adeleke. Adeleke. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, and then I'm going to take a page out. So I really do appreciate you saying that you stepped out of your comfort zone. You were going into it thinking you were going to get to know. In fact, I'm just gifted, I guess, at networking. It's just something I enjoy doing. It's never really bothered me to reach out to people. And so people ask me to teach them how to network all the time. And I think you just gave a masterclass in how to network because it's exactly how I network. I see somebody that resonates with me that I want to bring onto this show, or I want to get help from, or I just want to have a conversation with. And I do exactly what you
Yeah.
did. I slide into the DMs and I'm like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. Do you want to be a guest? To this day, I've recorded almost 60 podcast episodes. I've only had 2 veterans tell me no. I've only had 2 tell me no. And there's been several that I've reached out to where I'm like, holy shit, like I can really get this dude on my show or this woman on my show. Like
Right.
I'm not in a position to do this, but like, because we oftentimes, I think, and maybe you can relate to this, right? Like I only have 3,300 people following me on LinkedIn. That's the
Oh, you
primary
have way
place.
more than me. Let me
That's the
see. Okay.
primary place that I'm building. But also, like, I started with 93, and when I started the podcast, I had less than 1,000 followers. So I was still reaching out to guests and being like, hey, will you come on and be a guest on my show? And like I said, to this day, I've only had 2 people tell me no.
Because I don't know if this is your story. Excuse me. I just need to get the charger. I'm
No, you're
sorry.
good.
I don't know if this is your story. I like to tailor my articles based on who I want because I want the end result to be a certain way. So I try to orchestrate that. So I do reach out to people who I think will make a great story. You
Yeah,
know?
that's not
Um,
my approach. Is just I want everybody. I think everybody's story is worthy of being told, and I think that everybody's story can help save veteran lives. So that's really my approach to it. I want everybody, and
yeah,
and I
okay.
mean everybody from the people who second guess themselves when I reach out to, hey, you're a veteran and an entrepreneur. I'd love to have you on my show. Well, I'm not really an entrepreneur. I just started this thing. That's good enough for me because you're trying. You're taking that chance on
Right.
yourself, and that speaks to our community because some of them, not all of them, but some of them just need to see someone who maybe looks like them or talks like them or was in the same situation as they were, maybe in the same unit, came from the same upbringing. I don't know, but they just need to see that someone else is in the same position that they are currently right now and doing it. And that's enough to get them to take action and do it. So I'll help anybody tell their story. I thoroughly enjoy talking to people and meeting new people, which has not always been the case for me. I was a big fucking asshole who was just to himself and didn't want to be bothered. And so, now my approach is like, if you want to come on my platform and tell your story, I want to help you do that.
That's beautiful.
And I think the whole world should operate like that. There's no reason that we can't all work together to get to the same place.
Yeah, I'm waiting on that day where people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, when can I be featured?"
Yeah.
Because right now I'm the one just reaching out. Please
Well, hey,
come
when
on.
can I be featured?
Oh, I have you on. I already have you. You're going to be in November's issue. You just don't know that yet.
Well, I know it now, because I'm not afraid to be the first to be like, I had a mentor tell me, he's like, the only way to get anything is to ask for it. And if you don't exercise your ask muscle, then you're never going to get anything that you want. So, for me, I was just like, okay, well, I'll just run with that. Like, the worst thing they're going to tell me is no. And how hard is it to get over a no? It says nothing about you. It doesn't oftentimes even say anything about the person that you're reaching out to. Maybe they're too busy. Maybe they don't have the time. They can't fit you in. I think oftentimes probably you don't have enough to offer them. The benefit's not there for them to make the time for you. And I think that's a fair, that's very fair when you're talking about reaching out to people who are running multi-million-dollar companies or whatever. Like, okay, yeah, there's got to be some kind of mutual benefit. Not always, but sometimes. And so, there's no reason to just get it in your own way and not ask.
Exactly. You just know that, okay, this is not the time to, or the place, maybe in another space. And you just move on to the next person.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Um, yes.
I love
I'm
that.
excited. I'm
Well,
excited.
Laura, tell everybody how they can connect with you, where they can find you, follow you, reach out to you to ask to be featured in the magazine, reach out to you to ask
Yes.
to be a contributor or a writer for your magazine. I know you need all that stuff. This
Yes.
is this is your time. I want you to pitch to people. Tell the people what you got going on, where they can find you and what you need.
Okay, yeah. So you can find me on Facebook, Laura Kandewin. Instagram, same thing. I think I'm author Laura Kandewin. Um, LauraKandewen. It's not a common name, so it's not that many of us out there. The name is from Ghana, by my husband. But yeah, Battlefield Lifestyle Magazine is a magazine that is focused on bringing diverse stories because we're all doing our own thing on our own battlefield, right? We left the battlefield, some of us, and now we're on our own battlefield working through our own stuff. So that's what my focus is, just to bring diverse stories, unique stories, your story. So you can reach out through those Facebook, Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, same name. And I would love to hear from you. Love to hear your story ideas. Love to see the stories that you've written that you want me to put in the magazine. It's coming up on 1 year, so the plan is to grow like anything else, and just see that 2 to 5 year plan, which I was reminded of today, and just to not give up,
That's
and just to
right.
be consistent, and just to keep going. So yeah, author Laura Kandewin, or just Laura Kandewin. Battlefield Lifestyle Magazine. I also have that specific name on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Awesome. Laura, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time to have an awesome conversation with me and educate me on the
Yes, this was
magazine
so
space.
good.
And the surprise of being featured, it sounds like, in your 1 year anniversary edition of Battlefield Lifestyle, which is really cool. It's a huge honor for me.
Yes.
I think it's funny how that works out too, because that coincides with the launch of the QRFup.org application that
Oh,
will
nice.
hopefully make a world-changing impact on how we treat veterans and first responders in crisis. With an application, they can push a red button, be connected to a mental health care professional, while at the same time that mental health care professional is giving them the option to get law enforcement involved or not. And then we have crisis response teams made up of veterans and first responders who have been there to help come to your house and de-escalate if that's what's needed. The pilot
Wow.
saved 1,100 lives in Minnesota in 25,000 app downloads. So really excited
Wow.
about that. And just super grateful to have had this conversation and have met you. And if there's
Yes.
anything that I can do to help you as well, please reach out. Let me know.
Oh, I definitely will. I
I
will be picking
personally
your brain.
answer. Yeah, I answer all the DMs and the comments. It's all me. So, genuinely just want to help. Thank you so much, Laura, for being here. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Laura Kandewin.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Yep. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.